Budweiser, the official beer of NASCAR, proud sponsor of the Bud Pole Award, given to the fastest qualifier at each Winston Cup race. Today it's Ricky Craven. He'll be in the Bud Shootout of 2003 with these other drivers. Since 1979, Anheuser-Busch has awarded more than $7 million as title sponsor of the Pole Award program. And there's Craven getting set to roll off as we have a look at our Walmart starting grid for today's race. By 3 1/1000ths of a second, Craven won the Bud Pole over Jeff Gordon.
Those flames will feel good today, Larry. Nice cool day.
Yes, sir. Newman goes to the back in that backup car. Good run for Steve Park. Elliott Sadler. How about that?
Why don't we see if we can get Steve Park, see how he's feeling?
Let's do that.
Steve Park, this is DW up my TV tower. Bud, how you read?
Pretty good, DW.
You ready for 400 miles here on this old lady?
Yeah, she's a tough old girl, but I'm looking forward to running all 400 miles and feeling good at the end.
How's your mount? Pretty good from yesterday?
Benzol car is running real good, and like I said, with the rain, it kind of throws us all a curveball, but we're looking forward to run the race as best as we can.
Well, from all us up here in the TV tower and all your fans and the millions that are watching at home, good luck, my man. Stand on it.
Thank you, DW. I just want to thank Benzol again for their support through this whole trying time, and my mom and dad.
Steve's dad, Bob Park, former runner-up for the National Modified title. Longtime racer. His mom, Dottie, runs Steve's fan club.
You saw Dave Blaney, who qualified 25th. He, like Ryan Newman and Sterling Marlin, he will have to go to the rear of the field. After happy hour, they found water in the oil, engine problem, changed that motor. He'll have to start at the back as well. And I want to document the reason that Ryan Newman wrecked yesterday wasn't over driving the race car. They found that he cut a left rear tire down in the middle of the corner, not the right place to happen.
And what exactly, Larry, was Sterling Marlin's engine problem?
They pulled the lifters out. These guys are going through an inspection process. They're looking at push rods, they're looking at valve springs, and they pulled a lifter out and saw that it had some wear on it, which maybe indicates the camshaft was wearing out. Much better position, being the points leader, put a fresh motor in that thing.
Yeah, it's not where you start. it's where you finish, and you got to finish to maintain that point lead. So there's Sterling dropping back to the tail end, back behind Andy Hillenberg, who's in the Dave Marcus car today. There were 43 drivers here for the 43 qualifying spots, so nobody went home. Everybody's in the field. A look at Sterling on our steering column cam.
Sterling Marlin, this is DW at my TV tower. Bud, how you read? Sterling, this is DW. How you read, Bud? Sterling Marlin, this is DW at my TV tower. How you read, Bud?
Got you loud and clear there, DW.
Hey, it's a long way to the front, buddy. What you gonna do?
I think we got a real good car. We just gonna try to ease up through here, get a little track position, and get where we need to be. Try to win this thing.
10-4, you were quick in both practices yesterday, so you got a pretty steady ride there. Good luck to you, bud.
All right, thanks, Darryl.
The rule in NASCAR, if you go to a backup car or a backup engine, after the weekend starts, you start in the back, and that's where those three cars are. Matt.
Well, Mike, one driver to keep your eye on is two-time Darlington winner Ward Burton. He doesn't have the same car he won with here last fall, winning the Southern 500. They gave that car to their teammate, Hus Strickland. They brought out a newer car, which is a sister car of the one that won here last fall. But the car, not to their liking. They made 3 minor changes this morning. They're hoping the cloud cover and those changes put this car back in victory lane today. To Steve.
Well, Matt, I asked Ryan Newman's crew chief, Matt Borland, how does your strategy change now that you have to go to the back? And he kind of chuckled and said, we're just going to pass them one at a time. Really, our strategy doesn't change at all. We're going to do it on the racetrack, and we're going to help him also on pit road. Dick Berggren.
Before a race starts, there's not a lot you can count on, but this one thing you can count on at Darlington this afternoon. Every time the caution flag waves, they're going to come in for tires. Most teams have a dozen sets of tires mounted up, $18,000 worth of them. That's because this place eats tires. Mike?
Thanks, Dick. We're on the Dr. Scholl's pace lap. Green flag next time by. Remember, Dr. Scholl's helps you look, feel, and do better. So here they come off turn number 4 for the final time. Building speed.
Here they come.
coming down for the green flag. You're going to say it, aren't you?
They know.
All right, we're racing at Darlington.
You have to wait till that last car makes it through 1 and 2 to say we had a clean start.
Oh, yeah, this is nervous times right here. Nervous times for everybody.
Daryl, I've never seen a field go single file so fast.
Well, it's only a lane and a half wide racetracks. Why?
It's after they get 10 or 12 laps on those tires, they'll have to start moving that car around, find where their car drives a little better.
And really, what you try to do here is you try to pounce on everybody as quickly as you can. Try to pass as many as you can because you got them grouped up here in front of you, and particularly if you're in the back, you got to be cautious, but you got to go, baby. You got to go.
You know, just like that 1955 footage we saw in pre-race, Mike Skinner went into turn 3 on the flat and then found a way up in the banking.
You can do that, but that's when you're going to put that big slide job on your buddy next to you.
And you hope it's a controlled slide.
Jeff Burton, Kurt Busch, Michael Waltrip.
It's all a battle for 12th.
And Kurt Busch really got his, I mean, he went in a position there that I would not suggest he tries very often. He went in there just a little to the outside of Michael, and that is treacherous.
And you heard Jeremy Mayfield burp the throttle there, mid-corner.
You drive the race car here as much, if not more, with the throttle pedal than you do your steering wheel.
Yeah, you know, you want to man it. You want to get it wide open because you can go fast, but that's impossible here. You play with that throttle all day long. Shauna Robinson just got up in the wall down in 3 and 4. And I don't think she's been on the track all weekend that she hadn't hit the wall. She got her Darlington stripes.
Once in practice, once in qualifying. You see how that wall just looks like it's going to reach out and grab those cars.
And a lot of times does.
It actually does protrude out into the racetrack. It's not as symmetrical a wall as it comes off that corner.
Clean and green through 4 laps.
You know, one thing about all the drivers, they, for the most part, they respect this place, and they know that they have to give everybody a break. The problem you run into here is after about 2.5, 3 hours, you get tired, you get irritated, and you stop giving people breaks, and that's when we have trouble.
Daryl, looks like if you're not running flat out, is more mentally draining to hold back.
It takes so much composure, Mike, to drive here because you can't race the other cars. That's not the fact. You got to race the track, and you got to play with the car all the time.
Larry, how many times are we going to hear the spotters and the crew chief say, race the racetrack?
You have to. I mean, you get in your own zone, and you do your own deal, and in about lap 250, you see who's left, and then you go racing.
Yeah, you know what? But that's what you do. But you know what's wrong with that? There's always somebody behind you wanting you to go on.
Yeah.
They don't have horns. They got bumpers, and they use them.
Like Earnhardt Jr. there alongside of Kevin Harvick.
But I've been watching him, guys. He started back in the 23rd position. He just passed Kevin Harvick for the 16th position. He's been picking a car a lap off. He's been picking and choosing where he goes by him, Darrell.
You know, I said, Dale used to do that here all the time. He qualified terrible, but when that race started, he was the guy you wanted to follow to the front.
Dale Earnhardt won 9 races here at Darlington, second only to David Pearson, the track's all-time winner with 10.
We're starting to see different agendas down there, 3 and 4. We see some up against the wall. We see some of the cars running right around the bottom. It's where your car feels the best.
I mean, a driver doesn't want to get up next to that wall. You want to leave yourself a little room for a little margin for error, but the car just slides up there. You can't help it.
Mike Skinner's had a good run. Started 29th up to 19th. There's Bobby Hamilton inside of Johnny Benson and Brett Bodine and Hut Strickland.
I talked to Mike Skinner last night. One of the big improvements from the first 4 races is they said they found about 20 or 25 horsepower over the last week. There's just no substitute for horsepower anywhere we go.
Well, I think what they did, they used a Hendrick engine a couple of times and realized that one of their problems was back at the motor room. They went back home and whooped up on Runt Pittman, and I think he's responded.
You know, even though we hear him playing with the throttle, you still want as much horsepower as you can have when you finally go full open throttle.
All right, Matt Kenseth just went past Terry Labonte, and now Sterling Marlin makes the same pass. So Marlin will climb to 32nd.
And running side by side here takes so much time out of your lap time. As you were talking about Ryan Newman and Sterling Marlin in the opening, Darrell, I couldn't help but think, as a crew chief, you talk out of both sides of your mouth, you say, be patient, but hurry, you got to go.
That's right. Yeah, you're telling the driver to be patient. You got a stopwatch in one hand and the button in the other one. You got to get it, but be patient, be patient.
The leader, Ricky Craven, at Rockingham, he led the first 104 laps of the race, but now he is under pressure from Jeff Gordon.
And one thing you'll hear here is don't let that guy hold you up. A car can hold you up and cost you a second a lap here.
There's Steve Park closing in. Jimmy Johnson and Jimmy Spencer are the top 5. 10 laps complete at Darlington. This is NASCAR on Fox. When we left, Ricky Craven was under pressure from Jeff Gordon, but Jeff Gordon had a mirror full of Steve Park, who has now moved to second place. Boy, Darrell, that's the best medicine there is right there.
And folks at home, I don't know if you have any idea, any concept of what it takes for this young man to be back in this race car, Steve Park I'm talking about, performing at this level at this racetrack. There was just a few months ago, that we thought he had a career-ending injury. He has worked he's worked hard. He's got himself back in shape, and here he is today getting ready to challenge for the lead at Darlington.
You know, this type of racetrack has just always suited Steve Park. I mean, a year ago, he led the most laps, ran second here, should have won that race. This type of racetrack, meaning a racetrack that's very abrasive, wears the tires out, the car starts sliding around. He won his race at a racetrack like this, which is Rockingham.
He told me, we had him on the show that night, and he said, everything's fine, I just don't talk right. He said, but then I am from New York, so I didn't talk right to start with. By our standards, I guess.
Andy Hillenberg in the Dave Marcus car made a pit stop. They lifted the hood and then pushed Hillenberg to the garage area. Let's get an update on the front row starters from Dick Berggren.
Well, Ricky Craven's car is a bit tight. That's his problem. That's why he is dropping back. Ricky Craven also is a little bit tighter than he wants to be. Meanwhile, Steve Park's crew had told him, you've got a good car, but we'll hear this all day. Take care of your tires.
Boy, he is getting in that third turn. Woo! He drives that thing down in there, and so far it's stuck, but he better be careful. He's all over the back of Craven, and he's going to put the big move on him right down here. Here he comes. Put the crossover move on him. Nah, it wasn't quite in position. That's what you do there, though. You run that guy down in that corner as hard as you can and make him slide up the hill. Whoa!
Like that slide. And all you can do, Darrell, is back off the throttle, and that's what allowed Steve Park. He was able to stay in the throttle, takes the lead here at turn 3 and 4, lap 19.
Look at these fans. Look at these people on their feet. There was your crossover move right there. He just did it on the other end of the racetrack. Didn't quite pull it off. This place is notorious for that. Slide up, cut under.
You're just carrying so much speed on the exit of these corners. I mean, you've been in the throttle for a corner and a half when you get to the exit, and you're just carrying so much speed you run out of race
Well,
track.
when you drive in that hard to get by the guy, you've got to get on the brakes, because if you don't, you'll slide into the fence. And while you're on the brakes, the other guy turns under you and drives by you.
You know, I want to talk about the guy who finished last at Daytona, but he's followed up with 3 straight top 5 finishes and moved to 5th in points. Tony Stewart almost wrecked qualifying the other day. He did get in there on time at 36, but he's only moved up 2 positions. And I don't think anyone expected him to stay back there and not make a bunch of moves. He's in 34th right now.
And based on weight that car usually runs, he likes to ride around the bottom of the racetrack. That car works good that way, and you cannot do that here. You've got to get up next to that outside retaining wall and scrape it.
And he's almost 2/3 of a lap behind the leader already, so they're coming in a hurry.
Like I said, scrape it, not hit it.
Oh, you can hear there, Stewart spends a lot of time out of the throttle in the middle of that corner.
Yeah,
Which is easy to say from up here. I'm sure down there it's a handful.
The car's probably too tight, and they'll probably make some adjustments, and he will get better, but he's a half a lap behind the leaders right now.
Ward Burton there being challenged as they roll down the back stretch by Bill Elliott. 2 Dodges going at it. And Jimmy Spencer now has Jeff Green, who's reeled in Spencer at 5th place.
And we talk about this so much about these guys that come in here and run the Busch race on Saturday. And now the Busch race is after all the Winston Cup practice is over. So I just think you get a better read of the racetrack, what it's going to do in race conditions. And Jeff Green finished in the top 5 yesterday. You have to believe he comes in there and makes adjustments based on what he learned yesterday.
And this track, I don't care what anybody tells you, it might be cloudy, it might be overcast, it might be cool, but it's still the slickest track we go to. All it does is a little more comfort for the driver.
Here's Jeff Burton, who's moved up to 11th. And let's check with Steve Byrne.
Well, Mike, we've been listening to Ryan Newman. He says he's both loose and tight. The biggest problem he has in that 12 car is that he has absolutely no grip. They've got some spring rubbers loaded up in that 12 car, and he wants them out.
I talked to Matt Borland, his crew chief, this morning. I said, Matt, tell me about the history of this backup car. How many races? How much time do you have with it? He said we have about 40 feet with it, from the shop to the chassis dyno to the truck. Brand new race car just finished this week.
And as a driver, let me tell you, and if you haven't driven a race car, even though you build them all alike, you get in and the pedals aren't exactly where you like them, and the seat's not exactly like you need it. He didn't have a chance to practice this car. So he's out there in a car that he hadn't been in ever, with a lot of things that are probably very distracting to him.
17th place race here. You saw Ricky Rudd go on and take that spot as Michael Waltrip now tries to fend off Mark Martin.
Uncle Mike loose.
Shauna Robinson off the pace back straightaway. Already going 2 laps down, and that car slows. Looks like it's coming back in.
Yeah, they wasn't even really intending on racing here. They decided on Tuesday to come here, and she said, we're just going to try to use it as a test session just to get our feet wet with each other between her and the race team.
Steve Park, who last year led the most laps and finished second in his comeback race, is leading from Ricky Craven, Jeff Gordon, and Jimmy Johnson.
The Carolina Dodge Dealers 400 on Fox is brought to you by Dodge. You can take life as it comes, or you can grab life by the horns. Dodge. By 1-800-CALL-ATT for collect calls. By Kellogg's Cereals, the official breakfast food of NASCAR. And by Monroe Shocks and Struts, the leader in ride control technology.
Welcome back to Darlington. Steve Park leads. Hut Strickland had moved up from his 39th starting spot up to 24th, but just gave 2 of those spots back as Sterling Marlin went past and took Jerry Nadeau with him.
Well, what you do when you move up like that, you know your car is good, and so you relax a little bit, and you can give up a spot or 2 here. If a guy gets the pressure in you, that's the best thing to do, is let him go by.
Hut finished second here, Labor Day 1996, one of his 2 career best second-place finishes.
And you just have to believe with his teammate Ward Burton being always as good as he is, they've took some of those setups from those guys. But look at Dave Blaney in the 77. Remember, he had to start at the rear of the field with Sterling Marlin in that group as well. He's moved back up to 27th position, battling Hutt here for 26. So he's got a good race car, just taking his time trying to get to the front.
Plus, this is about 30, 35, 40 laps is when the car goes through an incredible change, like flip the switch. Those new tires that you start to race on, all of a sudden they're not new anymore, and that thing starts to get in that Darlington slide to it.
Well, a fuel window here is about 65 to 70 laps. About lap 30 to 40, the old driver comes on there and says, how much longer before we pit?
That's exactly right.
I need me 4 tires.
And it is. It's just like you flip a switch. I'm telling you, you're riding along, car's handling good, running good, everything's fine. All of a sudden it takes off for the wall, and the next thing you know, you're out of control.
But Jeff, this is when, as a crew chief, you really start interrogating that driver, especially with the different track conditions. What's your car doing? What do you need? What do we need to adjust on that thing?
Yeah, and you also, Larry, you try to remind him, and I know it makes a lot of drivers mad, just be patient, slow down, just try to smooth everything out. Let's see if we can get back in some kind of rhythm. A lot of times we talk about get that rhythm, and it'll be okay. Think about what's going on, driver. Just be smooth. And I know it sounds redundant, but that's the kind of things you have to tell a driver. Race that racetrack. Be patient. Get you some tires in about 10 laps. You keep telling him 10 laps for 30 laps, and before too long he knows he's lying to you, but you got to the end of that pit stop, and that's what matters.
That's why me and Jeff got along so good. I like the way he lied to me.
All right, Steve Park maybe got a little impatient with Rick Mast here. Maybe Mast just doesn't get a good run off the corner.
I'm not so sure. Sometime a guy's trying to get out of the way and can't.
Yeah.
And that looks like one of those deals.
This is a tough racetrack to get out of the way.
You don't just turn down to the inside. I mean, you just don't have the grip to do that. You've got to kind of anticipate what you're going to do.
Park trying to maintain his momentum and briefly got up against the back bumper of Rick Mast.
Talked about Tony Stewart a while ago. He's starting to make a little bit of a move. He's going working on Brett Bodine in 11 car here. This is a battle for the 30th position. He's getting a little impatient.
Yeah, guess what he did? He told him he was back there. You see him give him that little nudge?
I don't want to fool with you no more.
No, I'm tired of messing with you. You're holding me up. I got to go.
Back when the cars had chrome bumpers, we used to call that
the chrome horn.
Beep, beep.
Our guys in the pits, they never quit working on what's going on. Tony Stewart, his race car is tight. It's not turning, and you have to believe that's a product of these cooler track conditions. Everybody anticipated the racetrack would be tighter today.
But look at our graphic. Tony's got to go because that's all he lacks from going a lap down to Steve Park.
And I can't tell you how many times I've been running here and say I've been running 31 seconds by myself. I run up on a car trying to get by him, and I'm running 32.50. So you got to pass.
Now, don't worry about Tony. Remember last September, he started 33rd. He finished 4th.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm certainly not counting him out by any means.
There you see the leader, Steve Park, coming off turn 4. About a straightaway difference. So Tony Stewart, that's the reason he's up there bumping Brett Bodine. That spotter, that crew chief's telling him the leader's coming.
Darrell, we've talked all weekend on FX and on Fox Sports Net about how, okay, one lap for these young guns to hold their breath, but it's going to take an experienced driver to run up front here all day. Only one young gun in the top 10 in yesterday's Busch race. But how about rookie Jimmy Johnson? Started 4th, and he's running the top 5.
There we go, Park.
Oh. Park. Gordon gets past to Steve Park, hard in the wall.
We got the right front corner pretty good, the right side of the car.
32 car. Got damage.
Yep, Ricky Craven, the whole front of his car is stove in as Steve Park, the race leader, and Ricky Craven, the pole sitter, crash.
And he was trying to get around Stacy Compton, who was trying to stay on the lead lap in the 14 car.
Yeah, you see the 14 car got his all torn up on the right side. He goes down here underneath him. It's hard to stay underneath a guy. You just got to have that. You need that room to slide up. Compton didn't give it to him, and he didn't do anything wrong. Not that Compton did anything wrong, but you got to go in there low. You got to have room to slide up.
Here's a different angle.
See, Steve's going to try to clear him and slide in front of him, but he doesn't quite get there.
Again, we want to stress, Stacy Compton was trying to get to the high side of the racetrack. He didn't do anything wrong in the 14 car.
No, that's the problem with this racetrack. There's nowhere to go. You can't get out of the way.
Oh, Jimmy Spencer just got through there.
That's when I'd be hauling at my spotter, because I'm sure the spotter told him to go high. Oh, that's a shame.
That is a shame. There you see Ricky Craven just nowhere to go. Jeff Gordon in the 24. Jimmy Johnson going all the way to the bottom of the racetrack. Pit road will be very busy, Matt Yoakum.
Well, Larry, they're going to make a chassis adjustment on the 22 car of Ward Burton. He was lacking forward bite. As you see Mike Brown, the team's general manager, make the chassis adjustment. Another 4-tire change, obviously, because this track is so gritty here at Darlington today.
Now Jeff Gordon has just found his pit. He's got nobody in front of him now. Ricky Craven would have been in front of him had he not been going to the garage area. Gordon's car tight all day. His conversation on the radio has stressed that it is getting tighter and tighter as the run went on. There'll be a 4-tire change. They're going to try to get that tight out of there, and he is the first guy out of the pits. He'll be your leader.
Steve Park is out of his car as you watch the race off pit road. That is good news. Ricky Craven has driven his car to the garage, as Dick reported.
And there's no sense in telling you people at home how many tires people change here. When you come to pit road, you get 4 tires, trust me.
And in the Park incident, that's just Darlington. We're at 30-some laps into the run here, and the tires are wearing down. The car's lost some grip. He needed the room to slide up and didn't quite make it.
That's a good sight right there. A little wave to the crowd.
Steve Park is okay, but couldn't tame this track today. Pole sitter Ricky Craven is out.
Welcome back to Darlington. Steve Park was welcomed back. First race in 6 months when he was knocked out at Darlington, but came in confident with the clearance of his team and doctors and NASCAR, starting 4th. Almost goes into the wall, then took the lead on lap 19. Park leading on lap 38 between turn 3 and 4, runs into Stacy Compton, and then Ricky Craven, pole sitter, running into Steve Park. And his 2 career Winston Cup victories as he steps out of the car. He is okay, but done for the day. Ricky Craven, as they work on his car to try to get him back in the race in the last 17 races here in Darlington. Only once has the pole sitter won this race. Let's get on to Steve Burns and check in on Ricky Craven. Steve?
Thanks, Chris. Ricky, a lot of damage to this race car. What happened, and can you get back in the race today?
It's obviously not where we expected to be. We, you know, you always think about the ones that got away, and pretty frustrated. That didn't need to happen. And, you know, we just got swept into it. really, really proud of Steve coming back, and would love to have raced him and Jeff there for the win. I had a car good enough to do it. The Tide Ford was great, but I'll tell you what, you know, the lap car has got to give consideration to leaders. You know, it's just a great example of a guy not using his head. We're leading the race. You need to give some consideration, and we'll get over it, and we'll go at them next week.
Back upstairs, Mike.
Thanks, Steve. You do damage assessment in this business with one of those DeWalt power saws. That's, and you got quite a workout there.
$25,000 to have that body put on there, spend hours in the wind tunnel meticulously working on it, and then just cut it off with a saber saw. Throw it in the ground.
After pit stops, Jeff Gordon leaves Elliott Sadler, along with Jimmy Johnson, Jimmy Spencer, and Jeff Green for this restart.
I like the way that 21 car, it's looked good all weekend long. Came in an ace of picking him there, Hammond, but couldn't bet against Jeffy today.
And obviously those guys doing their job on pit road, getting him up to second.
Jeff Burton peeks out from behind. Is that Bill Elliott? Yes, it is, and Burton goes on. Everybody on fresh tires. Dale Earnhardt Jr. moves in on Jeff Green. This is for 5th place.
He just keeps on keeping on. He started back in 23rd, and as we saw in the beginning of the race, he was taking a car a lap.
Well, I tell you what I noticed about his car. It is really, really fast on new tires. For about 20 laps, he can haul the mail, but then he starts to slide back.
We'll watch the tachometer here. You'll notice in the middle of the corner, he'll get back in, it'll raise RPMs, and he backs off the throttle. It falls back down a little bit, but he's turning all over 9,000 on fresh tires. Speeds a little bit quicker as we go down the front stretch.
And that's one of the things that probably the cool weather will do, is not slow the cars down quite so much, and gear selection could be really, really critical today.
And over 170 miles an hour into turn 3.
Just to give you an idea, a 411 gear is kind of gear of choice here. Sometimes you'll pull a 22. Some of these cars today got 430 gears in them. That's going to really tax that engine.
And just remember, the higher number is the lower gear.
And more RPM.
From a 411 to a 430, you're probably talking about 400 RPM difference.
If you knew you only had short runs, you'd pull a much higher gear because you're going to turn more RPMs. But for the longer runs where the RPMs are going to get lower, you put that lower gear in to compensate.
Well, I always called it my passing gear. I'd pull as low a gear as I thought I could possibly get away with, so when I caught somebody, I could get around them.
We talked earlier about Jeff Green being one of those drivers to have had the advantage of running in both yesterday's Busch race and today's Cup race. Jeff Burton's another who led every lap yesterday. Let's go down to Green's pit. Here's Matt.
Mike, they lost one spot on pit road. Currently, Jeff Green's running in the 5th position. Todd, how is your race car today?
Jeff hadn't said a whole lot about it. It's been pretty good. We ran at Rockingham, and we ran pretty good at the beginning of the race, so we want to be optimistic there and hope it's very good at the end. But a little tight off the corner. I'll make no major changes. We'll see what happens.
Well, Todd mentioned the fact that they ran this car at Rockingham. In fact, that car led 46 laps. We're hoping that car shows up like it did again at Rockingham today.
Yeah, he looked like he was a contender to win down there. They had a motor problem there and put an end to their day.
How about the Burton brothers battling here? Jeff has the spot and Ward wants it. He's had a peek underneath his younger brother, and here he goes.
Well, these two guys here, for brother act, they're pretty good here at Darlington.
Well, they used to race South Boston Speedway in Virginia in late models. They'd come home with 2 busted race cars. They'd race each other harder than anybody else there.
Well, they've taken turns winning here, too, so they've obviously shared notes. They got 2 totally different cars. One's in a Dodge, one's in a Ford, but they seem to run the same.
Talk about 2 guys that shared notes. How about the 2 red cars there behind Jeff Burton? Bill Elliott and Jeremy Mayfield. Both those cars continue marching toward the front.
Just watch this. That seems to be our favorite saying. Hey, just watch this.
Kyle Petty and Robbie Gordon in close quarters again.
Robbie just scoots. Kyle gets him a little loose right there. Robbie gets Kyle a little loose. Dives to the inside, but you see how much momentum means. Those guys there were laid back off of them a little bit, got a run on them and passed them into the third turn.
Yeah, Ryan Newman and Brett Bodine were right there. Steve Park has been released from the care center. Here's Steve Burns.
Thanks, Mike. Steve, first of all, are you okay? Tell us what happened.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'm glad I didn't have to spend a lot of time in this care center, like I did in the past, but I mean, the Pennzoil car was running great. You know, just lap traffic all day long was giving us a hard time. And I mean, I got on the 14 car pretty clean and gave him a break, and he turned me around. Almost got in my right rear quarter panel, and I'm better than I look. I mean, I really thought we had a car today that would win the race, and you know, the Pennzoil Chevrolet got put out too early, just too early, I think. So this is a long race, and patience is a key role. And you know, when you're going a lap down so early in the race, give the leader a little bit of a break. I mean, the leader will give you a break if you want to get a lap back. So it's just a shame. You know, it's the first race back. We wanted to see it to the end, and I'm just severely disappointed in that.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
And boy, I can feel his pain, because when you're leading the race, you do anticipate those guys giving you a break because you are the leader. But then you got to put your other hat on and look at the guy trying to stay on the lead lap, you know? Yep. So understand both sides of the situation, but you don't need to wreck the leader.
Five-time Darlington winner Jeff Gordon right now in command of the Carolina Dodge Dealers 400.